My wife is 37, I'm 34, and my daughters are 18 and 16. About 6 months ago, I discovered that my wife has been having an affair with my best friend for the last 2.5 years. It seems that it started as an emotional affair for the first 6 months or more, possibly even longer. I've decided that I will be divorcing her, and I'll be moving out once I've completed everything I need to, which is happening soon. I haven't confronted my WW yet, and there's a reason for that. I've always had an intense aversion to cheating. My reactions to it can be extreme, and if you knew me, you might even think I'm a bit crazy. Whether it's someone discussing cheating, seeing it on TV, or knowing people who've experienced it, my reactions have always been intense. However, I've come to realize that my strong feelings about cheating have affected my daughters, especially my oldest. I've been seeing a therapist for just over 5 months, and it's been immensely helpful in addressing many long-standing issues I've carried since childhood. I've noticed positive changes in myself, and I hope my daughters see them too. While I can't detail my entire childhood, there's a lot that contributed to my intense hatred of cheating. You see, my mom cheated on my dad with his own brother for an extended period, and my dad caught her multiple times despite the betrayals. Mom's family lied to him about her infidelity, though they all knew about it. Eventually my dad had enough, but it took him years to make that decision. He cut off all contact with his family and reached a point where he simply didn't care anymore. To this day, he doesn't even know if my mom has truly stopped seeing his brother, and she has never been honest with him about her actions. Seeing my dad cry all the time was heart-wrenching, but I was just a child. I felt helpless. How could I possibly help him? Looking back, it's one of my biggest regrets. I wish I could have done something to comfort him. However, I was too young to truly understand or make a difference. I made the decision to cut my mom out of my life after I left home at 16. Nowadays, I only communicate with my dad and my siblings. Over the years, our family has grown closer, especially after we tragically lost our brother to suicide. While his death wasn't related to the affair, it did bring us together. During that tumultuous time, my dad's mom and sister would deliver messages to my mom from my dad's brother. This was in the era before our house had a phone, so they played a role in facilitating their secret meetings. My dad initially believed they were visiting to see his kids, but he later discovered their true intentions. This revelation shattered his trust in them, leading to him cutting off all contact. My mom would leave me and my siblings home alone while my dad worked long hours. She would then meet up with my dad's brother and return home before my dad finished work. This continued for years, even before I had all 5 of my siblings. I was very young when it all started. Regrettably, I wish I had told my dad about this while it was happening. While it was happening, my mom would threaten us, warning that dire consequences would follow if we ever disclosed her actions to my dad. At one point, our house was undergoing repairs by the council, so we had to temporarily move to a new residence. During this period, my mom and my dad's brother claimed they were going to our house to do some decorating. My dad remained oblivious to their affair during this time, and it would be a while before he uncovered the truth. My dad started working night shifts at his job, and to this day, I still can't fathom how my mom convinced him to install locks on our bedroom doors. She used these locks to confine us at night, preventing us from going downstairs. When my dad's brother visited our house, we could hear the sounds of their activities, and it was deeply unsettling. These are some of the incidents I'm sharing, but there are countless more etched in my memory. Hopefully, these examples shed light on why I harbor such strong feelings against cheating. I could continue writing for days if I were to document every childhood memory related to this. Now, let's shift to my relationship with my WW. At the time, I was 16 years old and she was 18. We had known each other since childhood, although we weren't dating yet. It was more of a friends with benefits situation. During this time, I was exclusively seeing her, but I never inquired about her dating other people, nor would it have bothered me, given our non-exclusive status. Our relationship took a more committed turn when she became pregnant. I asked her if she wanted us to be together, and she agreed. However, my world was rocked, 6 months ago when I discovered that she had been involved with someone else when we were 16 and 18, leading to the revelation that my oldest daughter is not biologically mine. Fast forward 18 years, and we've been together as a couple, married for 14 of those years. She has been a stay-at-home mom. Throughout this time, I've diligently worked to provide for my family. Starting my job at the age of 16, I've been working from home for several years now, allowing me to spend more time with my children. My successful business employs over 20 people, including my best friend, who happens to be the one having an affair with my WW. Here are a few insights into my daughters' lives and how I've impacted them. My oldest daughter shares my strong aversion to cheating, and at times I believe she despises it even more passionately than I do. My youngest daughter doesn't share the same level of animosity towards cheating as her older sister, but I know that my views have impacted her as well. While I can say I've been a great dad in many aspects, I've regretfully fallen short when it comes to discussing cheating with my children. This is a profound regret, and I wish I could turn back time and never bring up the topic. I didn't always initiate these discussions, but as my children grew older, they began questioning why I didn't talk to my mom, and I opted for brutal honesty. Consequently, my oldest daughter chose to sever ties with her grandmother and refused to visit my dad's house if my mom was present. Over the past 5 months, I've been undergoing therapy to address my own issues, and my hope is that my daughters will also consider therapy once I've broached the subject with them. I want to emphasize that my daughter is unequivocally mine, irrespective of our differing DNA. However, my past comments and behavior might suggest otherwise to those who know me. I've made abhorrent statements about raising a child from an affair, including disowning them without hesitation. Without hesitation, I have said hurtful words in front of my children, never looking back and ceasing to love them without remorse. I regret these statements and want to clarify that they do not reflect my true feelings. I love my daughter unconditionally, and nothing can change that. However, I am aware that my actions may have caused my children to need therapy for years. I believe that what I have done to my children is even more damaging than what their mother has done to our family. I still love both of my children just as much as I always have, and I sincerely hope that my oldest daughter will eventually accept the truth. I fear that my relationship with her may be irreparably damaged because of the hurtful things I have said. As for their relationship with their mother, I want my children to make that decision for themselves. I will not tell them to cut ties with her. That choice should be entirely theirs. Ideally, I hope they can maintain a relationship with their mother once our divorce is finalized, as I do not want them to experience the same estrangement I have with my own mother. Now, let's talk about my best friend. About 3 years ago, he was going through a divorce because his ex-wife had cheated on him. During this difficult time, my wife, children, and I were there to support him. Tragically, he discovered that his daughter was not biologically his, and she left with her mother, refusing to communicate with him. This broke him emotionally, as he deeply loved his daughter. Regrettably, during this period, I made hurtful comments about his daughter and ex-wife. I deeply regret these remarks and wish I could turn back time and refrain from saying them. However, I cannot change the past. My daughter would hear these comments and sometimes join in. She and his daughter were best friends, doing everything together until this situation occurred. My daughter cut ties with her friend and has not spoken to her in almost 3 years. This is entirely my fault, and I deeply regret it. I hope that one day my daughter can find it in her heart to forgive me. As my best friend worked for me, I gave him time off from work. During this time, my wife and daughter would visit him to check on his well-being and make sure he was eating properly. I did not visit as often because I had to manage his workload during his absence. It was during these visits that my wife and best friend grew closer, eventually leading to my wife being the only one to visit him at his place. I have substantial evidence of their affair, including when it started, their explicit messages to each other, and intimate photos and videos. These materials were difficult for me to see, and I have since stopped looking at them. There is no point in continuing as I already know about the affair, and my wife understands that our marriage will end due to my strong stance against cheating. I am unsure about the true paternity of my daughter. While I believe it is unlikely that my best friend is her biological father, there is a small chance due to our geographical proximity. Regardless, if he is the biological father, it means they have been unfaithful for almost 18 years, or they may have stopped and resumed the affair at some point. I cannot be certain. The main reason I have not confronted my wife sooner is that I wanted to show my unwavering love for my daughters. I wanted them to know that their mother's actions never change my feelings for them. Especially my oldest, to whom I will eventually need to explain that she is not biologically mine. I aim to convey that, despite knowing about their mom's affair for months, my love and commitment to them remained unchanged. My oldest daughter will likely struggle with this revelation, and she may mistakenly believe that I no longer love her, which is entirely my fault, as I do love her dearly. Over the past 6 months, I have made extra efforts to spend quality time with my daughters. We have had special dad and daughter days and outings together, as a family. Although I have always done this since they were young, I have increased the frequency in the last 6 months. I hope that these gestures are sufficient to demonstrate that my love for them remains unwavering, regardless of the circumstances. Tomorrow, when my oldest daughter returns home and my wife claims she's going on holiday with her friends, I will talk to my daughter. After she leaves and I have had the conversation with both my daughters, I will start moving my belongings out. By the time my wife returns, I will already be gone, and I will inform her of my departure via text, mentioning that the divorce papers are in the house for her. Despite the many reasons I have for seeking revenge on my wife and best friend, I do not believe it will bring me any solace. I will not be taking any retaliatory actions against them. I do not communicate with my best friend about work, and I have had someone in charge for a while now, so I only engage with our oldest customers. My plan is to move 2 hours away from my current location, and I will ask my daughters if they want to come with me. I doubt my wife will contest custody. My children are 16 and 18 years old. I will make sure to maintain a strong presence in their lives if they decide not to join me. I will not force my wife to leave my house. She can stay there until she secures a new place to live, at which point I may consider selling the property. The possibility of my wife receiving spousal maintenance will be determined by the courts, and I will need to consult with my solicitor about it. Once I have left, she will need to engage her own solicitor to address these matters. I have read numerous posts on this site and understand that my wife and best friend may continue to message me, attempting to explain their actions. However, I have learned from the experiences shared here that people rarely receive the answers they seek. It often boils down to excuses. I personally do not require closure. I have emotionally checked out for about 3 months now. While I have not delved deeply into my wife's affair in this post, it no longer concerns me. My sole focus is on my daughters. Nothing else holds significance. This is why I will be changing my phone number once I have settled into my new home. My post may make it seem like I have everything meticulously planned, but the truth is, I do not. I may be a new member, but I have been reading this site for 6 months. If I had written this 6 months ago, I would have likely followed the same path as most newcomers, disregarding the valuable advice provided by the incredible individuals on this site who have endured similar challenges. It does not matter whether the advice pertains to divorce or reconciliation. I would like to express my gratitude to those who have commented on posts I have read, offering invaluable guidance. Even though you are not addressing me directly, your wisdom has undoubtedly influenced my decisions. I believe that when we initially discover the infidelity, we often enter a state of denial. Denial, unwilling to accept that our partners could betray us, even when confronted with evidence. Somehow we tend to think our partners are different from other cheaters. After extensively reading on this site, I've come to realize that cheaters share many common characteristics, which is unsettling. While each affair is unique, cheaters tend to use similar language and excuses. However, I'm anxious that this situation might have unintended consequences. I have numerous unanswered questions. What if I've unintentionally distanced myself from my daughters? could I have been treating my oldest differently without realizing it? Have I been displaying more affection to my oldest, potentially making my youngest feel less loved? If my youngest chooses to live with her mom, will my oldest sever ties with her sister? Is it possible that my oldest no longer loves me because I'm not her biological father? Will they blame me for divorcing their mother? What if they don't want to live with me? What if they resent me? What if they never forgive me for how I raised them regarding cheating? These uncertainties weigh heavily on my mind. So much has unfolded in the past 3 days. It all began last Sunday when I informed my daughters that I wanted them to join me for a therapy session on Monday. There was something significant I needed to discuss with them. They had numerous questions, but I promised we would address them the next day. Although I felt compelled to reveal it prematurely, I believed it was better for my therapist to guide the conversation. Early Monday, my STBXW left for a vacation with her friends. During our therapy session, I sat across from my daughters, sensing the weight of what was about to be revealed. I knew it would shatter their world. My therapist took the lead and disclosed their mother's affair. Their reactions were explosive, filled with screams and shouts. Their anger was like nothing I'd ever witnessed. My youngest was tearful, while my eldest expressed her frustration through pacing and profanities. Despite my efforts to calm them, their distress persisted. Eventually, my eldest asked why I wasn't angry, and if I was considering reconciling with their mother. I acknowledged my anger, but explained I had something else to share. I asked for their full attention and requested they refrain from interrupting. As they settled back into their chairs, I began to reveal that I'd known about their mother's affair for 6 months. Their reaction was even more intense. They reached for their phones, seemingly intent on calling their mother. I urged them to let me finish speaking, emphasizing there was a reason for my silence during those 6 months. My therapist recognized my struggle to find the right words and stepped in, informing them that my eldest was not biologically mine. My eldest daughter jumped up, clung to me, and cried, repeatedly saying things like, "Please, don't leave me," and I didn't know that. She expressed remorse and love, and I reassured her that I had no intention of leaving her. She was my daughter, and I loved her deeply. Simultaneously, my youngest daughter also cried, embracing me and echoing similar sentiments. "Don't kick her out, she loves you like I do. And please, don't punish her for our mother's actions." I asked my eldest to look at me, but she resisted. Despite my therapist's efforts, she held on to me. I continued to reassure them of my commitment to staying with them and supporting them through this difficult time. My commitment to staying with them, and my profound love for both of them. While my eldest remained visibly shaken and avoided eye contact, my youngest daughter gradually regained her composure as she comprehended the message I was conveying. I tried to explain why I had delayed sharing the truth about their mother's affair over the past 6 months, and whether I had changed my behavior towards them. My youngest daughter, being the first to respond, raised her head to me and said, "No, you haven't." My eldest, who was still holding on to me tightly, heard the question the second time, and I could sense a shift in her demeanor. Her trembling seemed to subside as she slowly raised her head. I locked eyes with her and repeated the question about my behavior over the past 6 months. She confirmed, "No, you haven't." The way my daughters responded is a painful reflection of my own shortcomings as a parent. I am haunted by the knowledge that my actions and words have led them to believe that I could leave them behind or disown them. The sheer weight of guilt I carry for having instilled such fear and insecurity in their young hearts is gut-wrenching. It's a sorrow that pierces to the core, an anguish that lingers, as I realize the emotional toll my actions have taken on the 2 people I hold dearest. The admission I made was one I had carried in my heart for 6 long, agonizing months. I hadn't been entirely truthful with you about your mother's affair. Please understand that my intention was never to inflict pain on you. Instead, it was a desperate attempt to reveal the depths of my love for both of you. I need you to know that I am not going anywhere. Our home, the place where we've shared countless memories, will remain just as it always has, a haven of love and support. We will continue living in our home while your mother is moving out. The decision of whether to stay with me or your mother is entirely yours." Both of them had tears in their eyes as they expressed their desire to live with me. Their emotions were in shambles, and the car ride home was a long journey filled with unspoken pain. Though I repeatedly asked if they were okay, their responses were limited to single, heart-wrenching words. My youngest daughter, her voice trembling with hurt, confided that she had blocked her mother and never wanted to speak to her again. Her words were heavy with the weight of a fractured relationship, and her eyes held a mixture of sadness and anger. Beside her, my eldest daughter wore a determined expression, her resolve unshaken. She chose not to block her mother, explaining that she wanted to confront the lies she knew would come her way. I asked them if they were both willing to do therapy, and they both said yes. I sent a text to my STBXW and my ex-best friend. After sending those messages, I turned my phone off and replaced the SIM card with a new one. Meanwhile, my STBXW bombarded my daughter's phone with numerous messages and calls. Only my eldest has replied and told their mother not to come home. My MIL contacted my daughters and asked if I was willing to go see her. During this visit, my MIL and I engaged in a brief conversation. She had already been in contact with my STBXW. I refrained from asking about the details of their conversation. Her mother did mention that my STBXW had decided to cut her vacation short and was coming back home where she would be staying with her. She also asked if there was any message I wished to convey to my STBXW, to which I responded that I would appreciate it if she could ask her to say, "You could ask her to sign the divorce papers once she receives them." Furthermore, her mother expressed her apologies for the distress her daughter's actions had caused me. STBXW continues to send texts and calls to my eldest, but she doesn't provide me with many details about her messages. However, from what she has shared, it seems that my STBXW is adamant about not signing the divorce papers until I meet with her personally. I have told my daughters that I do not want to meet her, and they have agreed that I should not engage with her, believing that anything she says will be untruthful. I have terminated my ex-best friend's employment, and he is no longer part of my workforce. Surprisingly, it appears that my STBXW was unaware of these other relationships. However, I acknowledge that I cannot verify the accuracy of these claims without engaging in a conversation with my STBXW. I've spoken to my eldest, letting her know that when she feels ready or wishes to discuss her biological father, I am here to listen. She declined, saying that she has spent her entire life with her real father and has no interest in learning more. I am truly thankful and touched to hear her say those words. I have consulted with my solicitors since Monday, and while some aspects of the situation are straightforward, others are considerably more complex. For instance, my awareness of my STBXW's affair for the past 6 months, and my decision to initiate divorce proceedings pose significant challenges. Regrettably, my mention of the duration of my knowledge about her affair in a message to my STBXW may complicate the process of seeking a divorce on grounds of adultery. This potentially places me in a less favorable position regarding the divorce proceedings. I have another option that offers a more straightforward path, pursuing a no-fault divorce. This can be done either separately or through a joint application. Choosing a no-fault divorce means that we can mutually agree to end our marriage without placing blame on either party for the breakdown of the relationship. This approach can help streamline the divorce process, reduce conflict, and potentially make the transition smoother for both of us as we move forward with our lives separately.